Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasme Sri Gurave Namaha. Om Ganana Antva Ganapati Gammava Mahe Kavin Kavinam Upavashravastramam Jeshtarajam Brahmanan Brahmanaspada Anushrunnoti Bisadanam. Om Mahaganadipataye Namaha. Om Keshwaya Namaha. Om Narayana Namaha. Om Madhvaya Namaha. Om Govindaya Namaha, Om Vishnave Namaha, Matsudaya Namaha, Namaha, Vamanaya Namaha, Sridharaya Namaha, Hrishikeshaya Namaha, Padmanabhaya Namaha, Damodaraya Namaha, Sankarshnaya Namaha, Vasudevaya Namaha, Pradyumnaya Namaha, Niruddhaya Namaha, Purushottamaya Namaha, Narasimhaya Namaha, Achyutaya Namaha, Janardhanaya Namaha, Upendraya Namaha, Hare Namaha, Sri Krishna Namaha, Hari Om. Dear friends and devotees, we reach the chapter 7th of Bhagavata Purana. In this chapter 7, Lord Krishna gives liberation to demon Thrunavartha and also Shakatasura. So, in this chapter, Shakatasura and Thrunavartha are going to be liberated. I will give a brief summary of the chapter before giving the details. And killing of the demon Putana was discussed yesterday. We are giving the discussion of Shakatasura and Thrunavartha in this chapter. Om Ganana, Om Keshwaya Namaha, Om Narayana Namaha, Om Madhvaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha, Om Vishnave Namaha, Matsudaya Namaha, Trivikramaya Namaha, Vamanaya Namaha, Sridharaya Namaha, Hrishikeshaya Namaha, Padmanabhaya Namaha, Damodaraya Namaha, Sankarshnaya Namaha, Vasudevaya Namaha, Pradyumnaya Namaha, Niruddhaya Namaha, Purushottamaya Namaha, Dokshaya Namaha, Narasimhaya Namaha, Achyutaya Namaha, Janardhanaya Namaha, Upendraya Namaha, Hare Namaha, Sri Krishnaya Namaha. The summary of the 6th chapter is like this. When Nanda Maharaja, following the instructions of Vasudeva, was returning home, he saw a great demonic woman, Putana, lying on the road, and then he heard about her death. While Nanda Maharaja, the king of Raja and Gokula, was thinking about Vasudeva's words concerning disturbances in Gokula, he was little afraid and sought shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Sri Hari. Meanwhile, Kamsa sent the village of Gokula a Rakshasi named Putana, who was wandering here and there, killing small babies. Of course, wherever there is no Krishna consciousness, there is a danger of such Rakshasis. One day, Putana arrived from the outer space in Gokula, and later she went to the palace of Nanda Maharaja and saw Krishna was lying in the cradle, and she became like a beautiful girl and presentation, and she was thinking, and the gopis and Yashoda and Rohini did not object her, and she has taken Krishna in her lap and started feeding her breast milk. And later Krishna killed her and reviewed the moksha for moksha for that lady. After that lady was supposed to be in another story, it comes that one of the monster related to Vamana during Vamana Avatara, Bali Chakravarti's palace, there was a lady, and she felt as though she would like to be a mother for Vamana. And that ambition she expressed, and Lord Krishna given the chance for that girl to become Putana in this next life, and Krishna has given her moksha. So in the 7th chapter, the killing of Thrunavartha and also Shakatasura, it's called Shakatabanjana. Shakata means a cart. Krishna's pastimes of breaking the cart, Shakatabanjana. Shakata is a cart, killing the asura known as Thrunavartha and demonstrating the entire universe within his mouth are especially described in this chapter. Shuka Maharshi saw that Maharaja Parikshit was eagerly waiting to hear about Lord Krishna's pastimes as a child. He was very much pleased, and he continued to speak when Sri Krishna was only 3 months old and was just trying to turn backside up. Before he even attempted to crawl, the mother Yashoda wanted to observe a ritualistic ceremony with her friends for the good fortune of the child. Such a ritualistic ceremony is generally performed with ladies who also have small children. When Mother Yashoda saw that Krishna was falling asleep because of other engagements, she put the child underneath the household cart called Shakata. She used to hide Krishna under the cart. And while the child was sleeping, she engaged herself in other business pertaining to the auspicious ritualistic ceremony. Underneath the cart was a cradle, and Mother Yashoda placed the child in that cradle. The child was sleeping, but suddenly he awakened, and as usual, a child began to kick his small legs. This kicking shook the cart, which collapsed with a great sound, breaking completely and spilling all its contents. Children who were playing nearby immediately informed Mother Yashoda that the cart had broken, and therefore she hastily arrived there in a great anxiety with other gopis to protect Krishna. Mother Yashoda immediately took the child Krishna on her lap and allowed him to suck her breast. Then various types of Vedic ritualistic ceremonies were performed with the help of Brahmanas to protect Krishna baby by Yashoda and Nanda. Not knowing the real identity of the child, Nandaraja and Yashoda don't know the real identity of the child. The Brahmana showered the child with blessings. Another day, when Mother Yashoda was sitting with her child on her lap, she suddenly observed that he had assumed the weight of the entire universe. She was so astonished that she had to put the child down, and in the meantime, Thrunavartha, one of the servants of Kamsa, appeared there as a whirlwind and took the child away. The whole tract of land known as the Gokula became surcharged with the dust atmosphere. No one could see where the child had been taken, and all the gopis were overwhelmed because he had been taken away in the dust storm, Lord Krishna with him. But up in the sky, the asura being overburdened by the child, Krishna became very heavy to the Thrunavartha, could not carry the child far away, although he also could not drop the child because the child had caught him so tightly that it was difficult for him to separate the child from his body. Thus Thrunavartha himself fell down from a very great height, the child grasping him tightly by the shoulder, and immediately Thrunavartha died. The demon having fallen, the gopis picked the child up and delivered him to the lap of Mother Yashoda. Thus Mother Yashoda was struck with wonder again, but because of the Yogamaya's influence, no one could understand who Krishna was and what had actually happened. Rather, everyone began to praise fortune for the child's having been saved from such a calamity. Nanda Maharaja, of course, was thinking of the wonderful foretelling of Vasudeva and began to praise him as a great yogi. Later, when the child was in the lap of Mother Yashoda, the child yawned, and the Mother Yashoda could see in his mouth the entire universal manifestation. And Yashoda got really wonder after wonder. The incidents after incidents created Nanda Maharaja and Yashoda being thrilled and wonder what's happening. The 7th chapter, details start now. Raja, that is Parikshit Raja, is asking Shuka Maharshi, Raja Uvacha, Yena Yena Vatarena, Bhagavan Haririshwaraha, Karoti Karna Ramyani, Manojani Chana Prabhu. Yachunnuto Paitiratirvishtrustra, Sattam cha Shuddhati Cherena Pumsaha, Bhaktir Haro Tat Purushecha Sakyam, Tadeva Haram, Vadamanyasya Chet. This is the first sloka of the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Purana. King Parikshit is asking Lord Shuka Maharshi, all the various activities exhibited by the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, are certainly pleasing to the ear and to the mind. Simply by one is hearing of these activities, the dirty things in one's mind immediately vanish. Generally, we are reluctant to hear about the activities of the Lord, but Krishna's childhood activities are so attractive that they are automatically pleasing to the mind of and the ear of the people. Thus, one's attachment for hearing about material things, which is the root cause of material existence, vanishes, and one gradually develops devotional service to the Supreme Lord, attachment for Him, and friendship with devotees who give us the contribution of Krishna consciousness. If you think it fit, kindly speak about those activities of the Lord Krishna. Our material existence is Maya, or illusion, in which we desire different varieties of material enjoyment, therefore change to different varieties of bodies. Brahmanya sarva bhutani yantra rudina maya. Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic literatures exist simply to give us a chance to hear about Lord Krishna's activities. Particularly in Dashamaskanda, the 10th canto, Krishna has so many activities. Krishna has different avatars or incarnations, all of which are wonderful and which arouse one's inquisitiveness. But generally, such avatars as Matsya, Kurma, and Varaha are not as attractive as Krishna avatar. First of all, however, we have no attraction for hearing about Krishna, and this is the root cause of our suffering. But Parikshit Maharaja especially mentions that the wonderful activities of baby Krishna, he wanted to listen to that, which amazed Mother Yashoda and the father Nanda Maharaja. Also inhabitants of Praja, Gokula, are especially attractive. From the very beginning of his childhood, Krishna killed Putana, Thrunavartha, and Shakatasura and showed the entire universe within his mouth. Thus, the pastimes of Lord Krishna, one after another, kept Mother Yashoda and all the inhabitants of Vraja in great astonishment. The process to revive one's Krishna consciousness is Adau Shraddha Tatau Sada Sangaha Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, first chapter, 4th sloka, is tell like this. The pastimes of Krishna can be properly received from devotees. If one has developed a little bit of Krishna consciousness or eagerness to learn about Krishna's activities, by hearing from Vaishnavas about the activities of Lord Krishna, one becomes attached to Vaishnavas who are interested only in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaja recommends that one hear about Krishna's childhood activities, which are more attractive than the activities of other incarnations, such as Matsya, Kurma, Varaha. Wanted to hear more about and more from Shuka Goswami. Maharaja Parikshit requested him to continue describing Krishna's childhood activities, which are especially easy to hear and which create more and more inquisitiveness for the people who are listening. The sloka 3rd of 7th chapter, Atanyadapi Krishnasya Tokacharitam Adbhutam Manusham Lokamasadya Tajjati Manurandutaha Tajjati Manurundataha. Please describe other pastimes of Krishna, the Supreme Personality, who appeared on the planet Earth, imitating a human child and performing wonderful activities like killing Putana. Maharaja Parikshit requested Shuka Maharshi to narrate other childhood pastimes exhibited by Krishna while playing as a human child. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, incarnates at different times in different planets and universes. And according to the nature of these places, he exhibits his unlimited potency, that a child sitting on the lap of his mother was able to kill the gigantic Putana, is extremely wonderful for the inhabitants of this planet. But on the other planets, the inhabitants are more advanced, and therefore the pastimes of the Lord Krishna performs there are still more wonderful. Krishna's appearance on this planet like a human being makes us more fortunate than the other gods in other planets. And therefore, Maharaja Parikshit was very much interested in hearing about him. The shloka fourth is Shukavacha Kadachidotyani Kautotkaplave Janmaksha Yoge Samaveta Yoshitam Vadatra Gita Jyadantra Pachake Chakara Sono Rabhisechanam Sati. Shuka Maharshi said, when Mother Yashoda's baby was slanting his body to attempt to rise and turn around, this attempt was observed by Vedic ceremony. In such a ceremony called Utthana, which is performed when a child is due to leave the house for the first time, the child is properly bathed. Just after Krishna turned 3 months old, Mother Yashoda celebrated the ceremony with other women of the neighborhood, along with other gopis. On that day, there was a conjunction of the moon with the constellation of Rohini, as the Brahmanas joined by chanting Vedic hymns, and professional musicians also took part. This great ceremony was observed by Mother Yashoda. That is the time in which Krishna turned. 3 months old Krishna baby is turning. This ceremony is called Utthana, when the child is turning and goes on the tummy. Just after Krishna turned 3 months old, this happened. This Utthana program is called ceremony, Utthana ceremony. There is no question of overpopulation of children being burdened for their parents in a Vedic society. Such a society is so well organized and people are so advanced in the spiritual consciousness that childbirth is never regarded as a burden or a botheration. The more child grows, the more his parents become jubilant, and child's attempts to turn over are also a source of jubilation to the parents. Even before the child is born, when the mother is pregnant, many recommended ritualistic ceremonies are performed. For example, when the child was being within the womb for 3 months and for 7 months, there is a ceremony the mother observes by eating with the neighboring children. This ceremony is called Swada Bhakshana. Swada Bhakshana. Similarly, before the birth of the child, there is a Garbhadana ceremony earlier. In Vedic civilization, childbirth or pregnancy is never regarded as a burden. Rather, it is a cause of jubilation to the family. In contrast, people in modern civilization do not like pregnancy or a childbirth, and when there is a child, they sometimes kill it, bad people. We can just consider how human society has fallen since the inauguration of Kali Yuga. When the Kali Yuga came, all the bad things can happen. Although people still claim to be civilized, at the present moment, there is actually no human civilization to improve the society to the extent what Dwapara Yuga and Treta Yuga was there, but only an assembly of two-legged animals. This is the commentary of Prabhupada Swamiji. After completing the bathing ceremony of the child, Mother Yashoda received the Brahmanas by worshipping them with proper respect and giving them ample food grains and other eatables, clothing, desirable cows, and garlands. The Brahmanas properly chanted Vedic hymns to observe the auspicious ceremony, and when they finished and Mother Yashoda saw that child felt sleepy, she lay down on the bed with the child until he was peacefully asleep. An affectionate mother takes great care of her child and is always anxious to see the child is not disturbed even for a moment. As long as the child wants to remain with the mother stays with the child. And the child feels very comfortable. Mother Yashoda saw that her child felt sleepy, and to give him all facilities of sleep, she lay down with the child, and when he was peaceful, she got up to attend to her other household matters. The liberal mother Yashoda, observed in celebrating the Utthana ceremony, was busy receiving guests, worshipping them with all respect, and offering them clothing, cows, garlands, grains. Thus she could not hear the child crying for his mother. At that time, the child Krishna, demanding to drink the milk of his mother's breast, angrily threw his legs upward. Krishna had been placed underneath a household handcart, but this handcart was actually another form of Shakatasura, a demon, came in the form of a cart, who had come there to kill the child Krishna. Now, on the plea of demanding to suck his mother's breast, Krishna took his opportunity to kill the demon. Thus, he kicked Shakatasura just to expose him. Although Krishna's mother was engaged in receiving guests, Lord Krishna wanted to draw her attention by killing the Shakatasura, and therefore he kicked that cart-shaped demon. Such are the pastimes of Krishna. Krishna wanted to draw the attention by killing Shakatasura, and therefore he kicked that cart-shaped demon. Such are the pastimes of Krishna. Krishna wanted to draw the attention of his mother, but while doing so, he created a great havoc, not understandable by ordinary persons. These narrations are wonderfully enjoyable and Krishna's pastime. Those who are fortunate are struck with wonder upon hearing of these extraordinary activities of the Lord Krishna when he was a young baby. Although the less intelligent regard them as a mythological, because a dull brain cannot understand them, that they are real facts. Krishna's story is not a ordinary story. It's the real story happened in Dwapara. These narrations are actually so enjoyable and enlightening that Maharaja Parikshit and Shukadeva took pleasure in them, and other liberated persons following in their footsteps became fully jubilant by hearing about the wonderful activities of the Lord. Lord Sri Krishna was lying down underneath the handcart in one corner of the courtyard, and although his little legs were so soft as leaves, when he struck the cart with his legs, it turned over violently and collapsed. The wheels separated from the axle, and the hubs and spokes fell apart, and the pole of the handcart broke. On the cart, there were many little utensils made of various metals and brass vessels, and all of them scattered hither and there. And when the cart is broken, all the vessels are scattered everywhere. When Lord Krishna was of a very tender age, his hands and legs resembled soft new leaves. And simply by touching the handcart with his legs, he made the cart fall to pieces. It was quite possible for him to act in this way and yet not exert himself very much. The Lord, in his Vamana Avatara, had to extend his foot to the greatest height to penetrate the covering of the universe. And when the Lord killed the gigantic demon Hiranyakashipu, he had to assume the special bodily feature of Narasimha. But in this Krishna Avatara, the Lord did not need to exert such energy. Therefore, Krishna to Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God himself. In other incarnations, the Lord had to exert some energy according to the time and circumstances. But in this form, he exhibited unlimited potency. Thus the handcart collapsed, its joints broken, and all the metal parts and utensils scattered. The Vaishnava Tosani remarks that although the handcart was higher than child, the child could easily touch the wheel of the cart, and this was sufficient to send the demon down to the earth. The Lord simultaneously pushed the demon to the earth and superficially broke the handcart. When Mother Yashoda and the other gopis who had assembled were for the Utthana festival, and all the men headed by Nanda Maharaj saw the wonderful situation, they saw the entire phenomena. They began to wonder how the handcart had collapsed by itself. They began to wander here and there, trying to find a cause, but were unable to do so. The assembled cowherd men and ladies began to contemplate how this thing had happened. Is it the work of some demon or evil planet? They asked themselves. At that time, the small children present asserted that the cart had been kicked apart by the baby Krishna. Some children have seen baby Krishna kick the cart. As soon as the crying baby had kicked the cart's wheel, the cart had collapsed. There was no doubt about it. The other children confirmed it. We have heard peoples being haunted by ghosts, having no gross material body. A ghost seeks shelter of a gross body to stay in and hunt. The Shakatasura was a ghost who had taken shelter of the hand cart and was looking for the opportunity to do mischief to Lord Krishna. When Krishna kicked the cart with his small and very delicate legs, the ghost was immediately pushed down to the earth and his shelter dismantled. As already described, this was possible for Krishna because he was full of potency, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita also. Krishna's bodies is Satchit Ananda Vigraha or Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Vigraha. That is, any of the parts of his Ananda Chinmaya body can act for any other part. Such are the inconceivable potencies of Lord Krishna. The Supreme Lord does not need to acquire these potencies. He already has them. Thus, Krishna kicked his little legs and his whole purpose was fulfilled. Also, when the handcart is broken, an ordinary child could have been injured in many ways. But because Krishna is the supreme person of Godhead, he enjoyed the dismantling of the cart, and no injury happened to him. Everything done by him is Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, full transcendental bliss. Thus Krishna factually enjoyed. The nearby children saw that actually Krishna had kicked the wheel of the cart, and this was how the accident happened. By the arrangement of the Yogamaya, all the gopis and gopas thought that the accident had taken place because of some bad planet or some ghost. But in fact, everything was done by Krishna and enjoyed by him. Those who enjoy the activities of Krishna's pastime in the childhood are also in the platform of Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. They are liberated from material platform. When one develops the practice of hearing Krishna Katha, he is certainly transcendental to material existence, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Sagunan Samatityan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. Unless one is in the spiritual platform, one cannot enjoy the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna, or in other words, whoever engages in hearing the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna is not on the materialistic platform, but are already on the transcendental spiritual platform. We came to the shloka, 10th shloka. Nate shraddidare gopa bala bhashita mityuta apremeyam balam tasya balakasya nate vidu. The assembled gopis and gopas, unaware that Krishna is always unlimited, could not believe that baby Krishna had such inconceivable power. They could not believe the statements of the children, and therefore they neglected the children's statements as being childish talk. Shloka 11th. Rudatam Sutamadaya Yashoda Grashankita Krutastvasayaram Vipre Sukre Stanamapayat. Mother Yashoda was worried, and she, thinking that some bad planet had attacked Krishna, Mother Yashoda picked up the crying child, and allowed him to suck her breast. Then she called for experienced Brahmanas to chant Vedic hymns again and perform auspicious ritualistic ceremony. Brahmanas usually chant Purusha Sukta, Narayana Sukta, Sri Sukta. These are the Vedic chants. Whenever there is some danger or some inauspicious occurrence, it is the custom of Vedic civilization to have qualified Brahmanas immediately chant Vedic hymns to counteract the bad omens for the baby. Mother Yashoda did this properly and allowed the baby to suck her breast milk. After the strong, stout, cowherd men assembled the pots and paraphernalia on the handcart and set it up as before, the Brahmanas performed ritualistic ceremony with a fire sacrifice, yajna, to appease the planet, and then with the rice grains, kusha, water, and curd, they worshipped the Supreme Lord. The handcart was loaded with heavy utensil and other paraphernalia. To set the cart back in its original position required much strength, but this was easily done by the cowherd man. Then, according to the system of Gopa, Gopajati, various Vedic ceremonies were performed to appease the calamitous situation. When Brahmanas are free from envy, untruthfulness, unnecessary pride, grudges, disturbance by the opulence of others, and false prestige, their blessings never go in vain. Considering this, Nanda Maharaja soberly took Krishna on his lap and invited such truthful Brahmanas to perform ritualistic ceremony according to the holy hymns of the Samaveda, Rigveda, and Yajurveda. Then, while the hymns are being chanted, he bathed the child with water mixed with the pure herbs, and after performing a fire ceremony, he sumptuously fed all the Brahmanas with first-class grains and other food. Nanda Maharaja was very confident about the qualifications of the Brahmanas and their blessings. He was fully confident that simply if the good Brahmanas showered their blessings, the child Krishna would be happy. The blessings of qualified Brahmanas can bring happiness not only to Krishna but also to Supreme Personality of Godhead, but to everyone. Because Krishna is himself sufficient. He does not require anyone's blessings. And Nanda Maharaja thought that Krishna is required the blessings of the Brahmanas. What then is to be said for others in human society? Therefore, there must be an ideal class of men, Brahmanas, who can bestow blessings upon others, namely upon the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, so that everyone will be happy. Krishna therefore says in Bhagavad Gita that human society must have 4 social orders. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam gunakarma vivagashah. It is not everyone should become a Shudra or a Vaishya, and a human society will prosper. As enunciated in Bhagavad Gita, there must be a class of Brahmanas will well qualify. As enunciated in Bhagavad Gita, there must be a class of good Brahmanas with good qualities like Satya, truthfulness, Soma, Sama, peacefulness, Dhamma, self-control, and Titiksha, the tolerance. Here also in Bhagavatam, Nanda Maharaja invites qualified Brahmanas. There may be a caste Brahmanas and we have all respect for them. But in their birth in Brahmana families does not mean that they are qualified to bestow blessings upon the other members of the human society. This is the verdict of the Shastras. In Kali Yuga, the caste Brahmanas are accepted as Brahmanas. Viprativ Sutram, Evahi. In Kali Yuga, simply by putting on a thread worth 2 price, one becomes a Brahmana. Such Brahmanas were not called for by Nanda Maharaja. As stated by Narada Muni, Vyasa el lokasmanam proktram. The symptoms of Brahmana are stated in Shastra, and one must be qualified with these symptoms. If you want to read the Shastra, then you will have the understand the Dharma. So whatever is Dharma, they said, Dharma is according to Shastra. Whatever is written in Shastra, if you follow and according to work according to that, you are dharmic. If you don't follow the Shastra, then it becomes adharma. And one must be qualified with these symptoms. That's why Nanda Maharaja brought qualified Brahmanas to chant Veda Sukta, Samaveda, Atharvana Veda, and Rigveda and Yajurveda. So the Shastra, The blessings of Brahmanas who are not envious, disturbed, or puffed up with pride and false prestige, and who are fully qualified with the truthfulness will be useful. Therefore, a class of men must be trained as a Brahmanas from the very beginning. Brahmachari Guru Gurukul hai. Vasana Danto, Guru Hatam. The word Danta is very important. Dantaha refers to one who is not envious, disturbing, or puffed up with a false prestige. With Krishna consciousness movement, we are trying to introduce such Brahmanas in the society. Brahmanas must ultimately be Vaishnavas. And if one is a Vaishnava, he has already acquired the qualifications of Brahmana. Brahma Bhuta Prasannaha. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. The word Brahma Bhuta refers to becoming a Brahmana or understanding what is Brahman. Brahma Janati Brahmanaha. The one who knows Brahma Jnana is Brahmana. One who is Brahma Bhuta is always happy. No Sochati, na Kankshati. He is never disturbed about material and necessities. Samasarveshu Bhuteshu. He is already to bestow blessings upon everyone equally. Madabhaktim Labate Param. Then he becomes a Vaishnava. In this age, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura introduced a sacred thread ceremony for his Vaishnava disciples with the idea that people should understand that when one becomes Vaishnava, he has already acquired the qualifications of a Brahmana. Therefore, in the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, those who are twice initiated so as to become Brahmanas must bear in mind their great responsibility to the truthful control the mind and senses. Be tolerant and so on. Then their life will be successful. It was such Brahmanas that Nanda Maharaja invited to chant the Vedic hymns. Not ordinary Brahmanas. Verse 13 distinctly mentions Himsa Mana. The word mana refers to the false prestige or false pride. Those who are falsely proud, thinking that they were Brahmanas because they were born in Brahmana families, were never invited by Nanda Maharaja on such occasions. Verse 14 mentions Pavitra Suddhi, Pavitra In any ritualistic ceremony, many herbs and leaves were required. These were known as Pavitra Patra. Sometimes there were Nimba leaves, that's neem leaves. Sometimes bale leaves, mango leaves, ashwatha leaves, and amalaki leaves. Similarly, there were Panchagavya, Panchasasya, Pancharatna. Although Nanda Maharaja belonged to the Vaishya community, everything was known to him. Everything was known to him, being a Vaishya, born in a Vaishya family. The most important word in these verses is Mahagunam, indicating that the Brahmanas were offered very palatable food of exalted quality. Such palatable dishes were generally prepared with two things, namely food grains and milk products. Bhagavad Gita therefore enjoins that human society must give protection to the cows and encourage agriculture. Krishi go raksha vanijyam vaishya karma swabhavajam. Simply, all Vaishyas has to look after the cattle field and do all business. Vanijya means is business. Vaishya karma swabhavajam. Simply by expert cooking, hundreds and thousands of palatable dishes can be prepared from agriculture products and milk products. This is indicated here by the words Anam Mahagunam. Annam Mahagunam. Still today in India, from these two things, namely food grains and milk, hundreds and thousands of varieties of food are prepared, and then they are offered to Supreme Personality of God Krishna. Chaturvida Sri Bhagavat Prasadaha Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati. Then the prasada is distributed among all the devotees who attend the Krishna Puja. Even today in Jagannatha Kshetra and other big temples where palatable dishes are offered to the deity, and prasada is distributed profusely, cooked by first-class brahmanas with expert knowledge and then distributed to the public. There are 4 kinds of prasada, chaturvida. Salty, sweet, sour, and pungent taste are made with different types of spices, and the food is prepared in 4 divisions called charuya, chusya, and leya, and peya. Prasada, that is chewed, prasada, it is licked, prasada, tasted with the tongue, and prasada, that is drink. Thus, therefore, many varieties of prasadas prepared very nicely with grains and ghee offered to the deity and distributed to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas and other devotees who come to the palace of Nanda Maharaja, and then to the general public. This is the way of human society. Killing the cows and spoiling the land will not solve the problem of food. This is not a civilization. Uncivilized men living in the jungle and being unqualified to produce food or by agriculture and cow production may eat animals, but a perfect human society advanced in knowledge must learn how to produce first-class food simply by agriculture and protection of cows. Nanda Maharaja, for the sake of affluence of his own son Krishna, gave the Brahmanas cows fully decorated with garments. Nanda Maharaja, for the sake of affluence of his own son Krishna, gave the Brahmanas cows fully decorated with garments, flower garlands, and gold necklaces. These cows, fully qualified to give ample milk, were given to the Brahmanas in charity, and the Brahmanas accepted them and bestowed blessings upon the whole family and especially upon Krishna. Nanda Maharaja first fed the Brahmanas sumptuously and then gave them in a charity the first-class cows fully decorated with golden necklace and garments and flower garlands. We came to the shloka, 17th shloka. Vipramantramido yashtastarye proktasthata ta nischala bhavishyanti nakasad nakadachapi nakadachadapi sasprutam. The Brahmanas, who were completely expert in chanting the Vedic hymns from Samaveda, Rigveda, Yajurveda, Atharvaveda, were all yogis, fully equipped with mystic powers. Whatever blessings they spoke were certainly never fruitless. Brahmanas, fully equipped with the Brahmanical qualifications, are always yogis, fully powerful in mystic yoga also. Their words never fail. In every transaction with other members of the society, Brahmanas are certainly dependable. In this age, however, one must take into account that the Brahmanas are uncertain in their qualification. Because there are no yajnik Brahmanas, all yajnas are forbidden. The only yajna recommended in this age is Sankirtana yajna. That is in Kali Yuga. Yajnaiva Sankirtanam, prayer, yajanti sumedashaha. Yajna is meant to satisfy Vishnu. Yajnarto karmamano nyarta loke yam karma bandanaha. Because in this age there are no qualified Brahmanas, people should perform yajna by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Yajnaiva Sankirtana, prayer, yajanti he sumadesho. Life is meant for yajna, and yajna is performed by the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is the shloka praying with Lord Krishna. One day, a year after Krishna's appearance, Mother Yashoda was patting her son on her lap. But suddenly she felt the child to be heavier than mountain peak, and she could no longer bear his weight. Lalayanti, sometimes another lifts her child, and when the child falls in her hands, the child laughs, and the mother also enjoys the pleasure. Yashoda used to do this, but this time Krishna became very heavy and she could not bear his weight. Under the circumstance, it is to be understood that Krishna is aware of the coming of Thrunavartasura. Thrunasura. Thrunavarta Asura is coming. Lord Krishna came to know he is coming, who would take him far away from his mother. Krishna knew that when Trinavarta came and took him away from his mother's lap, Mother Yashoda would be greatly bereaved and crying. He did not want his mother to suffer any difficulty from the demon. Therefore, because he is the source of everything, Janmadaya Asya Yataha, he assumed the heaviness of the entire universe. He assumed the heaviness of entire universe. The child was on the lap of Yashoda, who was therefore in possession of everything in the world. But when the child assumed such heaviness, she had to put him down in order to give Trinavartasura an opportunity to take him away and pray with him for some time before the child returned to the lap of his mother. Feeling the child to be so heavy as the entire universe and therefore being anxious, thinking that perhaps the child was being attacked by some other ghost or a demon, the astonished mother Yashoda put the child down on the ground and began to think of Narayana, foreseeing disturbances. She called Narayana. Foreseeing the disturbances, she called for the Brahmanas to counteract this heaviness. And then she engaged in her mother household affairs. She had no alternative than to remember the lotus feet of Narayana, for she could not understand that Krishna was the original source of everything. Mother Yashoda did not understood that the Krishna is the heaviest of all heavy things, and Krishna rests within everything. Mat Shanti Sarva Bhutani. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Mayatatam idam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina. Avyakta murtina. Krishna is everywhere in his impersonal form, and everything rests upon him. Nonetheless, na chatham, na chaham, tasve avistyutaha. Krishna is not everywhere. Mother Yashoda was unable to understand this philosophy because she was dealing with Krishna as a baby, as his real mother, by the arrangement of Yogamaya. Not understanding the importance of Krishna, she could only seek shelter of Narayana for Krishna's safety and all the Brahmanas to counteract the situation. While the child was sitting on the ground, a demon named Trinavarta, who was a servant of Kamsa's, came there as a whirlwind. Trinavarta came in the air like a whirlwind. Krishna's heaviness was unbearable for the child's mother, but when Trinavartasura came, he immediately carried the child away. This was another demonstration of Krishna's inconceivable energy. When the Trinavarta came, Krishna became lighter than the grass so that the demon could carry him away. This was Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, Krishna's blissful transcendental pleasure. Shloka number 21. Gokulam sarvamadrinam sta dustung shomshrenubhi irayatsu mahaghora shabdeno pradeshodishaha. Gokulam is the whole tract of land known as Gokula. Gokulam is whole tract, covering the whole land of Gokula with particles of dust. The demon, acting as a strong whirlwind, covered everyone's vision and began vibrating everywhere with a good, fearful sound. Trinavarta assumed the form of a whirlwind and covered the whole area with a dust storm. The whole tract of land known as Gokula is full of storm dust, so that no one could see even the nearest people who are standing or sitting. For a moment, the whole pasturing ground was covered with dense darkness from the dust storm, and Mother Yashoda was unable to find her son where she had placed him. नापश्चात् कश्चन आत्मा परं चापि मोहितः तृणावर्तान्भिः शर्कराभिरुद्धतः. Because of the bits and sand thrown about the Trinavarta, people could not see themselves or anyone else, and thus they were illusioned and disturbed. The killing of the demon Trinavarta is going to take place now. Iti karapavana chakrapam sushrushe sutapadavi mavalaviksha matanaha atikaruna manasparanto chotid bhumipatito mritavatsada. Because of the dust storm stirred up by the strong whirlwind, Mother Yashoda could find no trace of her son, nor could she understand why. Thus she fell down on the ground like a cow who has lost her calf and began to lament very pitifully. When the force of the dust storm and the wind subsided, Yashoda's friends, the other gopis, approached Mother Yashoda. Hearing her pitiful crying, not seeing Krishna's present, they too felt very much aggrieved and joined Mother Yashoda in crying, their eyes full of tears. This attachment of the gopis to Krishna is wonderful and transcendental, the center of all the activities of the gopis and Krishna. When Krishna was there, they were very happy, and when Krishna was not there, they were unhappy. Thus, when Mother Yashoda was lamenting Krishna's absence, the other ladies also began to cry. Having assumed the form of a forceful whirlwind, the demon Trinavarta took Krishna very high in the sky. But when Krishna became heavier than demon, the demon had to stop his force and could go no further. Here is a competition in yogic power between Krishna and the Trinavarta. By practicing mystic yoga, asuras generally attain some preferences in the 8 siddhis, or perfections, namely Anima Siddhi, Lagima Siddhi, Mahima Siddhi, Prapti Siddhi, Prakamya Siddhi, Ishitva Siddhi, Vasitva Siddhi, and Kamadevasya Siddhi. Kamavasyadhita. But although a demon with many acquire such powers to a very limited extent, he cannot compete with the mystic powers of Krishna. For Krishna is Yogeshwara. Sometimes in the source, Krishna himself will give help to the whole yoga Gokula. So Ashta Siddhi, it is called 8 type of siddhis. Ishitva Siddhi, Anima Siddhi, Lagima Siddhi, Mahima Siddhi, Prapti Siddhi, Prakamya Siddhi, Ishitva Siddhi, Vasitva Siddhi, Kamavasista Siddhi. These Ashtasiddhis also, while chanting Durga Saptashati, these Ashtasiddhi comes, and also while chanting Indrakshi Stotra or Sri Chakra Stotra, all Siddhis will come there. But although a demon, when we worship Sri Chakra in the Vasavi Kanika Parameshwari temple, in Malleshwaram or any other Vasavi temple, they always keep Sri Chakra. And Sri Chakra is the one which gives all Ashtasiddhi by praying every day. Ashtasiddhi. But although a demon may acquire such powers to a very limited extent, he cannot compete with the mystic power of Krishna. For Krishna is Yogeshwara. The source of all mystic power is Yatra Yogeshwaro Harihi. No one can compete with the Krishna consciousness. Of course, having acquired a fragmental portion of Krishna's mystic power, asuras demonstrate their power to the foolish public and assert themselves to be God. Not knowing that God is the Supreme Yogeshwara, here also we see that Trinavarta assumed the Mahima Siddhi and took Krishna away as if Mahima means it becomes big. The one becomes big. This is what Vamana Avatara. Vamana became very big. Mahima Siddhi. It's called Mahima Siddhi. And took Krishna away as if Krishna were an ordinary child. But Krishna also became mystic Mahima Siddha. When Mother Yashoda was carrying him, he became so heavy that his mother, who was usually accustomed to carrying him, could not bear his weight and had to place him down on the ground. Thus, Trinavarta had been able to take Krishna away in the presence of Mother Yashoda. But when Krishna, high in the sky, assumed the Mahima Siddhi, the demon was unable to go further, was obliged to stop his force and come down according to Krishna's desire. One should not, therefore, one should not Trinavarta cannot compete with Krishna's mystic power. The demon unable to go further because Krishna has become more heavier than Trinavarta think. One should not therefore compete with Krishna's mystic power. Nobody can compete. Devotees automatically have all mystic power, but they do not like to compete with Krishna. Instead, they fully surrender to Krishna, and their yogi power is demonstrated by Krishna's mercy. Devotees can show mystic yoga so powerful that a demon could not even dream of it. They can never try to demonstrate it for their personal sense gratification. Whatever they do is for the service of the Lord Krishna, and therefore they are always in a position superior to that of demons. Therefore, there are many karmis, yogis, jnanis who artificially try to compete with Krishna, but thus ordinary foolish people who do not care to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from the authorities consider some rascal yogi to be Bhagavan. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the present moment, there are so many called Babas who present themselves as incarnation of God by showing some insignificant mystic wonder, and foolish people regard them as God because of lacking knowledge of the Krishna. Because Krishna's weight, Trinavarta considered him to be like a great mountain or a hunk of or iron, but because Krishna had caught the demon's neck, the demon was unable to throw him off. He therefore thought of the child as wonderful, since he could not neither bear the child nor cast aside the burden. Trinavarta intended to take Krishna up in the sky and kill him, but Krishna enjoyed the pastimes of riding Trinavarta's body and traveling. Trinavarta intended to kill Krishna. Thus, Trinavarta attempt to kill Krishna failed, while Krishna, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Vigraha, enjoyed this pastime. Now, since Trinavarta was falling because of Krishna's heaviness, he wanted to save himself by throwing Krishna off from his neck, but was unable to do because Krishna is holding him very tight. Consequently, this would be the last time of Trinavarta's yogic power. Now he is going to die by the arrangement of Krishna. With Krishna's grasping him by the throat, Trinavarta is choked, unable to make even a sound or even to move his hands and legs. His eyes popping out, the demon lost his life and fell along with the little boy down to the ground of Gokula. While the gopis who had gathered were crying for Krishna, the demon fell from the sky onto a big slab of stone, his limbs dislocated, as if he had been pierced by the arrow of Lord Shiva like Tripurasura. When the gopis who had gathered were crying for Krishna, the demon fell from the sky onto a big slab of stone, his limbs dislocated, as if he had been pierced by the arrow of Lord Shiva like Tripurasura. In transcendental life, as soon as devotees of the Lord Krishna merge in lamentation, they immediately experience the Lord's transcendental activities and merge in transcendental bliss. And as such, apparent calamities provide a further impetus for that bliss. The gopis immediately picked Krishna up from the chest of the demon Trunasara and delivered him free from all unauspiciousness to Mother Yashoda. because the child, although taken into the sky by the demon, was unhurt and now free from all danger and misfortune. The gopis and covered men headed by Nanda Maharaja were extremely happy because Krishna is safe. The demon fell flat from the sky and Krishna was playing on his chest very happily, uninjured and free from misfortune. Not at all disturbed because of being taken high in the sky by the demon, Krishna was playing and enjoying. This is Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Vigraha. In any condition, Krishna is Satchit Ananda Vigraha. He has no unhappiness. Others might have thought that he was in difficulty, but because the demon's chest was sufficiently broad to play on, the baby was happy with all respects. It was most astonishing that although the demon went so high in the sky, the child did not fall down. Therefore, the child had been saved virtually from the mouth of the death. Now that he was saved, all the inhabitants of Vrindavana were very happy in Gokula. It is most astonishing that although this innocent child was taken away by the Rakshasa to be eaten, he was returned without having been killed or even injured. Because of this demon was envious, cruel, and sinful, he was being killed for his own sinful activities. Thus, the law of nature, an innocent devotee is always protected by the Supreme Godhead, and a sinful person is always vanquished by a sinful life. Krishna consciousness life means innocent devotional life, and a sadhu is one who is fully devoted to Krishna. Confirmed by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, killing of the demon Thrunavartha. Bhajate mam ananya bhak sadura eva sa mantvaha. Anyone full attached to Krishna is a sadhu. Nanda Maharaja and the gopis and other covered men could not understand that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, playing as a human child, and that his life was not in danger under any circumstances. Rather, because of their intense parental love for Krishna, they thought that Krishna was an innocent child and he had been saved by the Supreme Lord. In the material world, because of intense lust and desire for enjoyment, one becomes implicated in sinful life more and more. Kama eshu krodha eshu rajoguna samudbhavaha. Therefore, the quality of fear is one of the aspects of material life. Ahara nidra bhaya mitunam cha. But if one becomes Krishna consciousness in Bhakti Yoga, the process of devotional service, Shravanam Kirtanam, diminishes one's polluted life of material existence, and one is purified and protected by the Supreme Person of Godhead. Shravanatam sa katham, Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. In devotional life, one has faith in this process. Such faith is one of the 6 kinds of surrender. Rakshisyutyati Vishwaraha, Hari Bhakta Vilasa. One of the process of surrender is that one should simply depend on Krishna, convinced that he will give one all protection, that Krishna will protect his devotee. In fact, Nanda Maharaja and other inhabitants of Vrindavana accepted this very simply, although they did not know that the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself was present before them. There have been many instances in which a devotee like Prahlada Maharaj or Dhruva Maharaj has been put in difficulty situation even on the even by his father, but has been saved under all circumstances. Therefore, our only business is to become Krishna consciousness and exhibit your devotional aspect towards Krishna and follow the Bhakti Yoga taught by Krishna for all protection. Nanda Maharaja and the others said, we must previously have performed austerities for a very long time, worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, performed pious activities for public life, constructing public roads and wells, and also given charity. As a result of how much this boy, although faced with death, has returned to give his happiness to his parents. Nanda Maharaja confirmed that pious activities one can become a sadhu so that one will be happy at home and one's children will be protected. In Shastra, there are many injunctions for karmis and jnanis, especially for karmis, by which they can become pious and happy even in the material life. According to the Vedic civilization, one should perform activities for the benefit of the public, such as constructing public roads, planting trees on both sides of the road so that the people can walk in the shade, and constructing public wells so that everyone can take water without difficulty. One should perform austerity to control one's desires, and one must simultaneously worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, one becomes pious, and as a result, one is happy even in material conditions of life. Having seen all these incidents in Vrindavana, Nanda Maharaja became more and more astonished, and he remembered the words spoken to him by Vasudeva in Mathura. One day, Mother Yashoda, having taken Krishna up and placed him on her lap, was feeding him milk from her breast with maternal affection. The milk was flowing from her breast, and the child was drinking it. O King Parikshit Maharaj, when the child Krishna was almost finished drinking his mother's milk, and Mother Yashoda was touching him and looking at his beautiful, brilliantly smiling face, the baby yawned, and the Mother Yashoda saw in his mouth the whole sky and high. His beautiful, brilliantly smiling face. The baby yawned, and the Mother Yashoda saw in his mouth the whole sky, the higher planetary system, and the earth, the luminaries in all directions, the sun, the moon, fire, air, the seas, islands, mountains, rivers, forests, and all kinds of living entities, moving and non-moving, Yashoda saw in his mouth. But the arrangement of Yogamaya, Krishna's pastimes with Mother Yashoda, were all regarded as ordinary. So here was an opportunity for Krishna to show his mother that the whole universe is attached to within him. In a small form, Krishna was kind enough to show his mother the Virata Rupa, the universal form, so that she could enjoy seeing what kind of child she had on her lap. The rivers have been mentioned here as the daughters of the mountains. It is the flowing of the rivers that makes a big forest possible. There are living entities everywhere, some of them moving, some of them not moving. No place is vacant. This is especially feature of God's creation. When Mother Yashoda saw the whole universe within the mouth of her child, her heart began to throb, and in astonishment, she wanted to close her restless eyes. Because of her pure material love, Mother Yashoda thought that this wonderful child playing so many tricks must have had some disease. So she did not appreciate the wonders shown by her child. Rather, she was worried and wanted to close her eyes. She was expecting another danger, and therefore her eyes became restless, like those of deer cub, like those of a deer cub. This was all the arrangement of Yogamaya. The relationship between the Mother Yashoda and Krishna is one of the pure maternal ankara. The relationship between the Mother Yashoda and Krishna is one of the pure maternal love. In that love, Mother Yashoda did not very much appreciate the display of the Supreme Personality of Godhead opulences. At the beginning of this chapter, 2 extra verses sometimes appear. In this way, to chastise and kill the demons, the child Krishna demonstrated many activities in the house of Nanda Maharaja, and the inhabitants of Raja enjoyed this incident to increase the transcendental nature of gopis, and the gopis, Krishna consciousness, the killer of all demons, was thus raised by his father and mother Nanda and Yashoda. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 10th canto 7th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam entitled The Killing of the Demon Thrunavartha. In other words, Thrunavartha, Shakatasura, both were liberated because they were attached to Krishna's body. They get moksha. That's the attainment of the benefit of Lord Krishna's favorism. Although they are demons, they were given moksha, liberated souls. Om Namostu Anantaya Sahasramurtaye Sahasrapadakshishobha Sahasranamne Purushashade Sahasrakoti Yugadarane Namaha Sahasrakoti Yugadarane Namaha Akashat Paritam Medagat Sagram Sarvadeva Namaskaraha Sri Kesham Prigatyo Namaha Sarva Vedeshat Punyam Sarva Tirteshu Atpalam Tatpalam Purnapni Vasanat Vasudevasya Vasante Jagatram Sarvabhuta Nivasosi Vasudevaste Kayena Vacha Manasendreva Buddhatmanama Gurute Sabhavat Karomi Adat Sagalam Parasmain Narayanaye Samarpayami. Thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock.